computer. All right, so let's begin. Officially, I want to thank you for being a part of Lichelle's dissertation defense. I want to thank you from Gardner-Webb University for committing to helping one of our candidates achieve a lifetime goal. Gardner-Webb University appreciates everything that you do. We know that you've had to spend some time and some energy into this, so thank you from Gardner-Webb University. I do want to also just spend a minute on Lichelle and just tell you what a wonderful job she's done. She's been a wonderful student. I've had the pleasure of working with Lichelle now for a couple of semesters, and I know she's a hard worker, and I know she follows through. She's one of those students that you enjoy having in class, one of those students that you kind of hate to see leave the program. But Lichelle, I am all about you leaving the program today.
Me too.
So, but she has been a pleasure, and I know she's put a lot of work in this. Between this and the PowerPoint that she's going to be presenting, I see a lot of scholarly research, and I'm proud to have been associated with Lichelle. So with that said, Lichelle, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to monitor to see who else is in the waiting room, but if you will go ahead and start.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us this morning for my final defense of my dissertation. I just want to thank the committee. Dr. Stone, you have been such a great help. You have just pushed me and held me accountable. So I am extremely indebted to you for that. Dr. Stone and Dr. Peters, you've been there to support me and cheer me on and provide feedback. So I'm indebted to you as well. I would ask that while I'm presenting, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me and ask your questions. That way I won't have to go back and try to collect my thoughts to answer a question about slide number 3 when we're at the end. And also, yeah, if you have questions, I'm fine with you stopping me. Don't hesitate, but I will answer your questions at the end too. If you have a question that kind of pops up towards the end and it's about something that I said earlier, please feel free to ask it, after we're done. The topic of my dissertation is parent perceptions of quality early childhood education programs. This topic is just near and dear to me. I've been in administration now for the past 6 years, and I've only worked with early childhood education in the early childhood education program. So this topic is near and dear to my heart because it's been my professional world for the past 6 years. And ironically, when I started this position, I was pregnant with my first child. So it has kind of gone hand in hand. I've learned a lot about early childhood from a different perspective since I've been submerged in this world. So I understand it now from two perspectives, from the parents' perspective and then from the educators or administrative perspective. So I feel like I've gained a lot of knowledge over the past 6 years. And sad to say, this is even more ironic, that our program is closing this year. So I will move on to a different position next year. It will be out of the early childhood education realm, but not out of education. I'll be going on to an elementary school as the assistant principal. So it's sad that this program is closing, but it will open up more opportunities for children to receive these services. So I'm going to jump right into it with my introduction. So chapter 1, the problem that continues to be a problem. And since this is so, I'm so passionate about early childhood education, I just wanted to, get to the bottom of it. And maybe if not get to the bottom of it, understand it a little bit more so that I can see my role in helping to overcome this problem. There are several quality early childhood education programs in this area and in lots of areas, but some are not filled to capacity despite the critical need for early childhood education. The purpose of this study is to gain an understanding of the factors that influence parent selection of a quality early childhood education program, which would help to give the directors of the programs a snapshot of what parents expect while looking for a quality early childhood education program. And this also could help make early childhood education program knowledge and education more available to parents. That is huge because parents are at the center of these students getting access to these services. So we want to make sure that parents are included, that their perspectives are validated. So my research questions, I had 4. The first one is, what do parents view as quality in an early childhood education program? The second question, how do parental views of quality in these programs differ by socioeconomic status, culture or race, parental education, and previous early childhood education program experience? Question 3, what types of programs and information are available and attainable in the studied county as perceived by parents? And then what improvements can be made to make early childhood education programs high quality as perceived by parents? So my theoretical framework revolved around constructivism and then as it relates to early learning. So Lev Vygotsky, he was the leading theorist when it comes to children constructing knowledge based on experience. So the constructivist point of view, it holds the learner at the center of experience, arguing that once a person deliberately connects past experiences and prior knowledge, then new knowledge evolves or constructs. And that is just the world that of early childhood. Play is the name of the game. Play is the way students learn, preschool children learn. So it makes this theory very valid for this study. Through Vygotsky's social theories of learning studies, children usually successfully accomplish new tasks while working in collaboration with an adult instead of on their own. So when students are at home, they're working with an adult, which is their parent, which makes parents very important. And then also when they go on to these programs, they're working with teachers, they're working with individuals in the classroom. So they need those adults to help them accomplish these new tasks. OK Sung Yang, he was a research professor, and he just proposed that the strongest portion of the young child's development was during free play. So free play is encouraged in most early childhood education programs. It should be encouraged at home. Sometimes parents have to be intentional about playing with their students. As a parent of a young child, I understand how life can get in the way, and that can be difficult at times, but it is necessary for students to develop and to learn. OK Sung Yang also created the verbal plan and evaluation program. It involves teachers as children's encouragers and advocates during free play. So it's important to be intentional about it. You can provide the opportunity for free play, but if you show up and then don't interact, then the students don't get as much as they could get from that experience. The PROPELS is just an acronym that stands for plan, role play, props, extended time, language, and scenarios. And that is just a way to be intentional about it. When you make sure you have all these steps in place, then students will get the most out of that playtime. And then parental involvement and constructivism. Parents are right there, they're at the center. So it only makes sense for them to be included in this theory because they are major players in a child's development. A few statistics: about 70% of Americans agree that there is a need for early childhood education. 60% of low-income children without early childhood education services do not understand the alphabet, and about 94% do not understand the sequencing of numbers before entering kindergarten. And the understand alphabet, that was before entering kindergarten as well. Kindergarten teachers estimated that more than half of the children entering kindergarten lack the skills required for a good year or a successful year. Those gaps are closing up. Lots of things are being put into place, especially now, to help close these gaps and provide these services for the students. Many preschool age children attend early childhood education services with both parents working outside the home for most parents. So this just says that these days you have more parents in the work field than at home, which means early childhood education programs are needed even more because we have more students to serve. More on my chapter 2. Many programs are accredited for meeting a set of quality standards by accreditation organizations like the National Association for the Education of Young Children, and that we usually hear that just said NACE. Um, some theorists claim that high quality is associated with an academically rich approach when selecting a program, while others suggest that higher quality is that social emotional component of learning. And I have to stand here and say with much conviction that they both are equally important. We have to give the children the tools they need to be successful academically, but also socially and emotionally. Once students start to move on through the K through 12 grades, that social emotional component becomes just as important as the academic piece. As of 2019, all 50 states receive some early childhood education funding, federal funding, but there's still a push for universal preschools. The constraint of having early childhood services for only children from low income families is problematic. I hear this as an administrator in this field. I hear, some parents who are right there on the line of receiving funding, but because of their income, they just miss it. And it just makes it even more difficult to provide quality services for their children because then it's very expensive. Some families of preschool age children in the early childhood education program may not have the choice of a state funded program due to issues similar to what I just said as income. There may be these long waiting lists, and also the intake screener. Sometimes students, if they perform well, then they don't qualify for the services. Sorry, now I'm going to head up to my literature review in chapter 2. Early childhood education programs. Quality early childhood education has been described differently by administrators, teachers, and parents. However, all perspectives should be taken into account during program planning. And parents' perspectives, sadly to say, are sometimes not included as much when center directors and policymakers are planning for these programs. And I think parents' perspectives are needed in these decision making. Parents have reported that safety, development, and parent-teacher relationships as the most essential aspects of quality early childhood education programs. Early childhood education programs needs to enhance efficiency, review funding systems to provide incentives for quality, raise salaries, and then require more strict regulations on licensing. You have some early childhood education programs that are not as quality, and some things can be put in place to just make sure that all students are receiving somewhat the same level of quality in these programs. For quality indicators, these line up with the indicators that were used in this study. So physical environment, which is usually rated using the Eckers scale, access and availability, cultural sensitivity, curriculum, teachers and instruction, and then parent engagement. Parents' expectations of early childhood education services are based on their opinions on the competence of teaching personnel and the level of contact between teachers and children. That has just proven to be true throughout my study and throughout the research that I've conducted on this field, this topic. In African American children, quality programs was defined in terms of employee skills, experience, training, and individual attention provided to the children. Parents of Caucasian children agreed with the experts on the quality standards. Less informed parents offered the program a higher quality of rating than the experts, and then more informed parents provided programs with a lower quality rating. So that was interesting to see that parents with the less experience, they rated it higher. And sometimes your expectations can be very high, and then you get in there and you just have an understanding, so you don't relax your standards to not be of quality, but with an understanding, you just understand it a little bit more.
And Lichelle, I think that also speaks to the trust that perhaps that people who don't know as much about the program trust that we're the experts and we're going to provide that, and people who may have seen another model may come with a different perspective.
Absolutely. So my review of literature continued. When parents are selecting selecting an early childhood education program, it's a huge decision. There are two ways that parents usually organize their decision-making process. There's highly planned decision-making, and then the loosely planned. So different parents do things differently. You have parents who will go out and research, take their time, start very early, very proactive, to make sure they're making a very informed decision. And then you have some loosely planned decision making, parents who, may decide maybe at the last minute, don't do as much research, rely more on word of mouth, which nothing is wrong with. But sometimes when word of mouth is coupled with your own research, then you can make a better decision. The availability of valuable information plays a major role in the decision-making process of parents when in pursuit of a quality early childhood education program. Parents' decision-making is mainly affected by the information gathered from members of their family, or feedback gained from members of the community. Word of mouth just goes a long way, and that proved itself in this study and in lots of studies that I researched. Parents who enroll their first child in early childhood education programs appear to gather a lot of information and take a tour of several facilities to ensure that they make the most educated choices. And I think, Dr. Stone, that speaks to what you just mentioned as well. The factors that influence parental decision making, I found that it was cost and safety, and this was just in my literature review. Cost and safety was a major factor. Family elements, just the different programs that are in place for families to be involved and to learn more, different things like that. And then the developmental process and curriculum. So the way the students are learning, the way that they are developing, and the curriculum. Okay, so for chapter 3, this is my methodology. For my research, I decided to do a mixed methods research because I wanted to not only pinpoint those specific factors, but I also wanted to give parents to expound on what they thought quality was. So I felt like interviews coupled with a survey would give me a better understanding of what parents really want. So I had a 3-phase approach. My phase 1 was just a website review of the early childhood education programs. Initially, I was going to review more programs in the studied county, but I ended up only reviewing the programs that were used in this study. My phase 2 was the parent and director surveys. I sent out electronically parent surveys to the parents of the studied facilities. And then each director of that program also completed a survey. And that was mainly to compare what parents say quality is to what the directors pose as quality and provide as quality. And then my phase 3 were the parent interviews. I sat down with parents and asked questions, and it was very open for them to provide as much feedback as they wanted, but it really gave me a lot of insight to what they view as quality and what they expect when they send their students to the program. So my sample population consisted of 42 participants. It was pushed out to all the parents in the program. But again, that when you send out a survey, when it's voluntary, that the parents respond, at different rates based on different things that are going on. So I did have 42 participants complete the survey. This was voluntary participation. It was communicated to them that it was voluntary, that no incentives would be given. So I was pleased to receive the 42. I was expecting 100, but I was expecting 100 when I also had a larger amount of facilities that I was going to use in the study. And that changed due to some school districts just said, no, I can't do a survey in their district. So I just had to work with what I had. I was grateful for it. After being told no, you get so happy when you hear a yes. So I was excited to be able to do this program in 4 different early childhood education programs in the studied county. And these 4 programs, I'm just so happy that they were different. They're different funding sources. So I was able to get a variety of perspectives. Could have gotten a larger perspective had I had the original programs that I wanted to do, but very grateful to have these participants. So my data collection, parents, I use parent and director online surveys. These surveys consisted of about 27 indicators of quality and then a few open-ended type questions or some just questions collecting information about the parents, demographic type information. I also used parent interviews. It was a 5-question interview, but I did have some follow-up questions just in case some parents gave a more closed answer. I was able to ask another question to get more feedback. When I was coding my surveys, I used SPSS for my analysis part. But I also use just Qualtrics. Qualtrics helped just to analyze the raw data, but I did have to use SPSS to go in and do my ANOVA analysis. For my surveys, I used manual coding. I had 7 parents to agree to do a survey. It was just enough data for me to go in and mode and code these responses manually. I enjoyed it. It gave me, I feel like it helped me to understand it more because I'm going through and I'm seeing how these responses are connecting, and it was kind of fun as well. I color coded. I think I'll always remember all those colors and what they mean. So that was fun, and it was very informative for me. My limitations and delimitations. My limitations participants, they came from programs that serve a variety of students. And some of those students had disability. However, there was no in-depth research about the perspective of parents who only had children with disabilities. I would imagine that their perceptions may be similar, but they may be different as well. But that just was not taken out to be one factor on its own. Some parents may have been through the early years prior to the study. If they have older children who had attended a early childhood education program, parents who decided to participate in this study may not be a full representation of all demographics in this area. The data, it was gathered at one point in time, but sometimes perceptions change over time. The biases of the participants can cause parents and center directors to provide what they see as favorable responses. I will say sometimes people, and this is just some human nature, you want them to answer honestly, you want them to answer based on their experience, but sometimes people will still answer the way they think you want them to answer the question. I hope that wasn't the case very much. So my delimitations, the extent of this study included feedback from parents who lived in the study county and who had children ages 3 through 5 who attend an early childhood education program such as pre-K or Head Start. The parents in this study, they had experience with the program for at least 6 months. So I did not ask parents who were brand new, but if they had at least 6 months experience based on the time that I did my study. Most children enrolled in the fall. I did my study towards the end of February. So they had been in the program for about 6 months, at least. Chapter 4, I'll talk about my results. And I'll spend a good amount of time on chapters 4 and 5, just talking about what the results that I saw. So my first research question was, what do parents view as quality in an early childhood education program? So I used the surveys to answer this question. And for the parent surveys, out of the 42 parents, environment and curriculum were the 2 highest indicators that parents saw as quality. And my survey was broken up into 6 different categories. So these indicators, there were 27, but they were broken down into different categories. So under the environment category specifically, and you can look out to the side and see where 42 parents thought that cleanliness of the center was very important. And then down under my curriculum category, you'll see where 42 parents saw that in curriculum, it was the literacy components and then the math component of curriculum. They saw that as a quality indicator. If the centers are providing that rich literacy component and then that rich math component as well. Followed by the 42 were 40 parents, and they saw quality, and these probably were the same parents. It's just that the most parents saw the access and operation, specifically mission and vision, was high quality. Environment, a welcoming environment, that was also viewed as high quality. And then teachers and instruction, and this just ring through my research and through my study, that teachers and instruction was important, specifically the appreciation of individuality and the problem solving piece of teaching and instruction. So this chart here represent what parents saw as very important. So I didn't indicate, I indicated in the paper, but not for the presentation, the number of parents who did not see it as more favorable. But you can see that driving distance, that rated very low, and then teachers sharing family values and developing relationships, rated low as well. And when I say low, I mean just not as important. They didn't think that it wasn't important at all, but just not as important as some of the other indicators. The quality indicators perceived by center directors, and again, this was used just to kind of compare what parents thought quality was to what center directors were providing and thought quality as well. So all four directors did respond, and out of the four, all of them thought that teachers and instruction, all the indicators in that category and all the indicators in the curriculum category were most important. And then three directors saw the environment as the next highest indicator or category of importance, and specifically the age range of the students. So it's important to make sure, if you're going to provide a program, if you can have the students grouped as closely to their age range as possible, is better. You have some programs that will have some 2-year-olds have a classroom where it may be 2 through 4. Most programs do have them separated by age. So you'll have a group of 4-year-olds, you'll have a group of 3-year-olds, and that is, that's best for students. And the directors thought that was best as well. And then you can see that the two directors, access and operation, specifically location and driving distance, and these would just be the ones that they thought were not as important. And then family engagement, sharing the family's values. Sometimes in a very diverse center, you can give it your best, but then you may not be able to reach the mark if it's a very diverse group of families. And then culture and diversity, the ability to communicate in the family's language. See, sometimes, you can try your best. I know in my facility, we have, it's a very diverse group of students and families. And so, to help with that, we have an ESOL assistant who comes in to translate, and she's full time, and so she's available. She pushes in classrooms to help with students, and then she's available for all meetings to help parents understand what we are saying and get a better understanding of the program. Parent and directors forced rank priority categories. So in the survey, it asked parents and directors to choose their top 3 categories that are most important. Parents chose the first choice, center and classroom environment; second choice, teachers and instruction; and then third, diversity and cultural competency. Directors chose classroom and center environment, teachers and instruction. That was kind of together for first, and then second, it was centering classroom and environment. They were right there together. And then the last one for directors were family and engagement. And even to be placed in the top three would be good. So I think it's great that family engagement made the top three. And I also think it's great that diversity and cultural competency made the top three for parents. It would be nice if all these lined up to be exact, but it's good information to know to help the directors in their planning for next school year or in the future. Parents' perception of quality in early childhood programs. So this was an interview question that helped to answer this research question. So I asked the parents to tell me their idea of a high quality and early childhood education program. So through a variety of responses, what the common things that came forth was centering classroom environment, teachers and instruction, and curriculum. But again, you can see on the chart, we had a variety of responses, but once they are placed in these categories, then you can see where teachers and instruction, most parents said something that was similar. They didn't say the same thing, and that's to be expected because they're different people, but it was still in the same, it was on the same topic. So I coded them under these categories based on how they responded. Summary for research question one. Overall, most parents had a positive view about indicators of quality. A lot of their indicators line right up with what the experts said in my literature review. The very important indicators that came forth were curriculum, a strong curriculum that focused on reading and math, as well as social emotional skills, teachers and instruction, environment, cleanliness, welcoming classroom, teacher to child ratio. That was all that came forth as important. And then also access and availability, specifically hours and calendar days. Had a lot of parents who felt that the hours of operation were important, and then the calendar days, the days that they were open, was also important. So a recommendation for this question, I recommend that program directors seek feedback from parents upon enrollment, and then continuous feedback, and be willing to make reasonable modifications or adjustments to offer a high quality program for their community. One thing that we do at our school, we have parent advisory council meetings. It's open to all parents. We do these at least 5 times a year. And we just welcome the feedback. We have an agenda, of course, but a lot of things on our agenda are just we give it over to the parents and allow them to share what their thoughts are, how can we improve, what things are going well, what things are not. So I think that's important for all centers to have some type of way to solicit that feedback from the parents. Research question 2. How do parents view quality in an early child? How do parental views, of quality in an early childhood education program differ by socioeconomic status, culture, parental education, and previous early childhood education program experience? That's a mouthful. So I went about answering this question by using the survey data. On the survey data, I asked for lots of demographic information such as household income, the race or the culture, the educational experience, and then also how long have they been in the program. Some programs offer students who are aged 6 weeks all the way until 4 or 3. So some parents may have been in the field or in the program longer than some other parents. Some programs offer just 3K and 4K. Some programs only offer 4K, but then the students may have went to a different program prior to coming to that program. So I think the experience was important. So I pulled that out as a variable that I wanted to see if it made a difference or not. So I conducted 4 ANOVA tests to compare these differences between the groups. I used education as a variable, experience as a variable, race or culture as a variable, and then the socioeconomic status as determined by household income as a status to see if there were any differences. So these analyses were performed to determine differences in perceptions of quality in early childhood education program existed between the groups. So I pulled all my data in, coded my data in SPSS, and then I ran these analyses to see if there was a significant, you know, difference, and came to find out, and you can see how close it was, that there was no significant difference among any groups. Now, this I did do some research and saw where there were some differences, using variables similar to these. I think there are several reasons why there may not have been any differences, noted in this study, but they were very close. And I think it's great to see that there are no differences, because then you know that, you know, our parents are expecting the same thing. It does not matter their education level, and it shouldn't. And it doesn't matter how much money they make, and again, it shouldn't. So I was pleased to see this. And I'll talk more about that in chapter 5. A summary of research question 2. The findings of this study show that there were no significant difference in how parental views different by socioeconomic status, cultural race, education, or previous years of experience. These findings show that higher education, higher socioeconomic race, years of experience does not mean acquire a higher level of importance placed on quality of indicators of quality. Sorry. This further shows that parents of all groups generally view quality as important for their children. Um, you know, parents see quality just for what it is, and I think parents, when your child is there, you just have an eye for seeing things right as right. So my recommendation, I recommend that all early childhood education programs consider all perspectives of quality, despite the category in which they may be placed based on the different stigmatisms. And these are my different variables. So my research question 3, what types of early childhood education programs are available and attainable in the study county as perceived by parents? And so to answer this question, I did the website analysis. So I went to all the different program's website, and I just looked for several things. I looked for the mission, the vision, the hours of operation, age range of the students, cost, ratio, and then the capacity. These are some things that I noted in my literature review that were important to parents when they're searching. So I wanted to see what was available. What do parents see when they go on these websites to to get answers or to decide if they want to send their child there. I noted that, program A, you can see in the chart where they had 4 out of the 7 that was the same. Well, program B had 3 of the 7. Program C, they had 3 of the 7, and these were all different. And then in program D, they didn't even have a website. So I was able, for some of these, I had to not only go to their website, but then go to other websites to see if this information even existed online at all. And for some it did, and for some it didn't. So I think, I talk more about, recommendation for that later, but this was interesting to see what information is out there. And parents are heavily relying on online resources to help them make these decisions, especially if it's a parent who is new to the area, which I did interview, parents who were new to the area and did not have the support, the family, the community to rely on for the word of mouth part of it. So they rely heavily on what's out there and available for parents. So my interview question for this research question was, tell me about the resources or information you relied on when searching for an early childhood education program. So these were what the parents reported: word of mouth. All the parents said that, even the parent who moved from a different state because of their job. They moved, started working, and they knew someone on the job who recommended the program. But outside of that, they didn't have that support. But so all the parents did mention word of mouth as a means of helping them decide. Program website, 57% of the parents said that they used it. One parent said I went, but it wasn't helpful at all. um, some parents, they called the facility or made a trip to the facility if they could, due to COVID and the different regulations. Some parents just were not able to physically visit the building, but they could have called, and two of the parents did call to speak to a director or designee, sorry, for the program. And then we also have the DSS website, or the online rating site, that gives you information, specific information about each program. And three of the parents said that they did go to that to get some information to help them make a better decision.
And Lichelle, that may be something that you may want to share with the DSS center there, that perhaps they want to work on that, because 3 out of 7 is not that fabulous, and somewhat helpful is certainly not very helpful. So maybe there's something that they can learn from that.
Absolutely. Parent and center director sources for available information. So a question that was asked to all the center directors was, what kind of information, it was on the survey, what are some ways some sources you use for sharing your information? And then based on what the parents said, their sources for attaining information. I just wanted to do a side-by-side comparison to see what was said versus what was provided by the directors. So parents said word of mouth from family and friends. Center directors said they share. Some of their parents share. They rely on word of mouth for parents to get the word out. Another thing that some parents mentioned was website, social media. All of the directors said they use, not all, most of the directors, with the exception of that one, said that they use social media, district website, or the school website. DSS quality rating, parents shared that, but none of the directors shared that information. And it could be because they're not in total control of that information. Some of that information is based on when those constituents come into the building to gather information. So some of that information is reported based on that. Community, therapists, schools, or churches, parents mentioned that, and the directors did as well. Factors that help parents decide on a program. The interview question was, how did you decide on which program to enroll your child in? You can look at the percentages here, and this was to the parents. 57% said referrals from others, 57% said affordability, 29% said diversity, 29% said availability, and then 29% said academic focus. So a summary of research question 3. Research question 3 was pretty much what type of information is out there and available. So family and friends was the primary source of information for parents. That word of mouth, it just really goes a long way. When asked about information sources they use when looking, they said that their primary source, again, was family, friends, and the community. Center directors reported that word of mouth was a source that they relied on in sharing information. Previous research has shown that social networks are the primary source of sharing information. So we see our theme here is mainly just word of mouth. This is important because if parents can't access the information to quality programs, then children are hindered from those developmental and academic services that are out there. So recommendation for this is I recommend that the early childhood program directors regularly update and disseminate accurate information using social network platforms and traditional platforms. I did notice that some information wasn't as accurate as it should be. So the directors should just be updating those websites and social network platforms, because in the times we're living in today, Facebook, Instagram, a lot of facilities rely on those platforms, but sometimes they won't, put information on it as regularly as needed. Okay, research question 4. This is my last research question. What improvements can be made to make these programs high quality as perceived by parents? So the interview question was, what changes would you make to your early childhood education program to make it a higher quality program? Most of the parents, 25% of the parents said nothing. It's it's fine just the way it is. I love it. I love the teachers. I love the program. I love this. And they were just singing the praises to those programs. But then you see 25% of the parents said hours of operation. And that was mainly some programs just end early. We have programs that end at 2 o'clock, some that end at 3, some that may end at 4, and then you have some parents that get off at 5 or 6. So they just wanted the hours to be extended. That was something that they felt that could make it a higher quality program. And then all the rest of the responses were very similar and sporadic: days of operation, after school care, certified teachers, bus accommodations. Parents said nothing, and then procedures. One parent mentioned that due to COVID, it was just it was difficult. The parents were not allowed in the building at all. They would meet them at the car to get the student. So that was just difficult for that particular parent. One parent talked about it would be easier because she was in the school system if her child could be bused over to her job so that she wouldn't have to provide that after school care. Some parents just, they said a variety of things that would make it high quality, but it was, the only two that were really significant were the hours of operation, and then some parents said nothing at all. The parents were asked what were some challenges in finding an early childhood education program. So the question was, what challenges did you face when searching? Parents said a variety of things. Most of it was just a waiting list, or the programs didn't meet all of the requirements. Um, some parents said that they were denied due to availability or requirements, but they were referred to a different program. So I thought that was good that some programs would refer parents to another program, and I think it would make in order to do that, programs should be collaborating so that they could help meet the needs of students. Um, and some parents said that there were no virtual options for 4K kids. So you had some parents who may not wanted to send their child face to face, but wanted the virtual option, and that just was not available for 4K students. So my summary for research question 4, the findings of this study show that parents overall are satisfied with the quality of the programs that their child attends. The most common improvements that parent mentioned was to change the hours so that they are more conducive to parents' work schedules. Although several parents mentioned changes such as location, arrival and dismissal procedures, and teacher certification, several of them expressed that they would not change anything to improve the program. This is important because some parents may choose not to enroll their child in programs because of the hours. Some hours are longer or more conducive at a program that may be, in their perspective, not as high quality, but it works better for their schedule. So a recommendation that I have is for programs to offer extended day services to meet the parent needs. This may not be possible. It could be possible with an additional fee that the parents pay. There are certainly ways to reach, to meet this recommendation. It would just take lots of planning, lots of feedback, and then, you know, parents would have to probably, pay a higher cost, or there could be some funding that could be available to help with vouchers, or some state or federal allocated funds. There are lots of funds floating around right now for early childhood education. I hope some of those funds make their way to helping the parents, to some things that will make it easier for the parents, such as extended day. So chapter 5 is my discussion. Limitations to the finding. This research, it was voluntary. So the parents, they responded if they wanted to. Parents who did not choose to participate, they may have had different views. This may have created an inaccurate representation of the population used for the study. A lack of statistical significance due to the small sample size, and that was just where I did my ANOVA analysis. Due to the small sample size, no differences were detected, but if the sample size would have been larger, then some differences may have been detected between the groups. The study took place during a pandemic. This was huge. There was a decrease in enrollment due to the regulations. A decrease in enrollment means a decrease in sample size. quite possibly. Policies and procedures were modified to align with federal, state, and local guidelines in the CDC. Um, parental hardships that may have taken parental hardships could have taken a parent's focus off the quality and just focused on, let me just get you there. Quality rating reporting protocols were modified because some of these organizations couldn't push into the building due to a lot of the regulations that were in place. So they were just exploring and trying new ways. This did not happen in my facility, but they were doing like online um, observations or reviews, and that when you do an online review, it's just hard to notice some things that you would notice if you were there face to face. The diversity of the sample population, the early childhood education programs in an urban area were used in this study. Initially, I wanted to make it a more diverse population by soliciting feedback from parents in more rural or suburban areas. But those, sadly to say, those were the facilities or programs that I was not able to use. So I had to use what I had, and most of those were in an urban area. Recommendations for future research. Differences in perspectives of quality in urban area and rural areas, and in a variety of early childhood education programs. I think that there may be some differences of perspective of qualities in different areas, but I wasn't able to do that in this study. So that is a recommendation for future research. I also spoke to some parents who homeschooled or who decided to, after homeschooling, when they did enroll their child, they enrolled their child in a faith-based program. Faith-based programs or homeschool, they were not used in this study. However, I did want to get somewhat of a perspective. So I did speak to some of those parents, and they agreed with a lot of the qualities of the indicator qualities, but the main thing was just that faith-based, and it was for both parents. The one who homeschooled, the reason she homeschooled was because of that faith component. She wanted to be able to provide, something that was not allowed, in schools. So I did include that in the paper, in my dissertation. So if you want to read more about that, there is an insert in there about what those parents said. But since this study only included a small number of participants from early childhood education programs that were similar in demographics, the findings may not be generalizable. Furthermore, since the study did not include information about parents' perspectives from rural areas and then alternative early childhood care, such as homeschool or faith-based, additional research is required to identify and better understand the factors that may make this option appealing to families. Another recommendation, cultural competency and family engagement in relation to parental education level, household income, and parents' cultural background. I think that there may be some differences there as well, and just more research could give you those specific differences in between these different groups. Communities are becoming more diverse than ever, and cultural sensitivity and awareness is at a height in our nation. Understanding how these factors influence parents' perspective of quality care will assist program directors in developing multilingual information and materials to include and engage parents, developing curriculum that is inclusive of all children, and providing professional development training to staff working with multicultural families. I think that is huge, especially for right now. So that is a recommendation for future research. Recommendations for program and policy. Early childhood programs should intentionally collaborate with various organizations in the community. I think when collaboration takes place, then there's some accountability there. Centers or programs can rely on partners such as the pediatricians. I see now where some pediatricians are making recommendations or telling parents about, hey, have you tried this program or this program, based on what they see in the child. This program may be a good fit for this child. So that collaboration, if there's no collaboration, then those recommendations won't be able to take place. Extended day options should be offered by early childhood education programs. It would take some creativity on behalf of funding sources, the program directors, and then policymakers to be able to make this happen, but it's definitely possible. And it's something that, if you can't tell, that I'm all for. I'm all for. An updated, centralized early childhood education website should be used by all program administrators. There should not be a reason why information can't be found on a particular center. And I think that should be something centralized where early childhood programs should be required to go in and update it regularly so that parents they have what they need, pretty much at their fingertips. These centers should have a set of standards. You should have a mission and vision. You should have your capacity. You should have, if it's closed. Some parents, they get their hopes up. They go in with all their information and they're ready to enroll, only to be told we're full, when they could have found that information out by going on a website or possibly making a phone call. But I just think that if there was a way to go ahead and streamline that, then it could be beneficial for parents. High qualified teachers should be employed in all early childhood programs of quality. Some programs do not have certified teachers. And I'm not saying that each teacher has to be certified with a bachelor's or a master's, but even a 2-year degree, or even, some sort of indicators of quality should be a standard for the teachers employed in programs of quality. A revise the current quality rating tool to include cultural competency, and then revise environmental guidelines. So we have several tools that are used, but cultural competency is not embedded in some of those tools. Some of the tools have been updated, but I think they need to go in and be revised so that this cultural piece is there, and it should be there because it's important to the parents. And then the environmental piece, we heard it throughout that parents think that environment is important. So we need to make sure that those guidelines about environment are up to date, and they are high standards. Some of the parents here report that, they were not able to visit, but they were able to see based on the outside, or they were not able to go into the classroom. But when they walked in, they saw different interactive things on the wall for children to engage in outside of the classroom, and the colors that were present just from viewing the school, from just going into the office area. So I think environment is very important, and it needs to be, those standards need to be raised. So the conclusion of the defense, Dewey said it best. He said, what the best and wisest parent wants for his own child, that must the community want for all of its children. Any other ideal for our schools is narrow and unlovely. Acted upon it destroys our democracy. So I think that parents' perspectives should be included in these decision making. What parents want should be somewhat of what we want. Yes, the experts, the educators and administrators who are leading these facilities, yes, they know they understand quality, but sometimes it can be as simple as educating the parents or getting your information out there so parents can be educated and so that they can make that informed decision. And the parents, they know their child. So when you join together and get the parents' perspective, then you are essentially providing what is best for the child. The results of this study indicate that parents understand that quality is important in an early childhood education program, and their perspective of quality pretty much aligns with the National Association for the Education of Young Children's indicators of quality as well, which is a pretty high standard set of qualities. Therefore, parents must be provided with the information they need to make informed decisions when selecting early childhood education programs for their children. In order to make this vision a reality, I'm so sorry, parents and program directors should work together. I left that out and I apologize, but I said it. So that concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
I have a quick one. Excellent presentation. My question is basically based on your experience in the field. Were any of the findings surprising, or they were probably what you expected?
I did not find anything that was very surprising. I hear lots of chatter from parents. I hear teachers reporting chatter from parents. So a lot of the results just pretty much align with what I see parents wanting. The cultural and diversity piece, I did not, had we not been going through what we're going through as a nation, that probably would not have been as alarming to me. But I thought that it was good that parents are wanting that diverse population. They're wanting the cultural competency place, and then our teachers are becoming more sensitive of what parents want as it relates to culture and diversity. So thank you for that question, Dr. Peters.
Thank you, Lichelle. That was an excellent presentation. One thing that comes to mind for me is the idea that you had any difficulty at all of having the cooperation of the groups that said no to you. But I guess when I really think about it, that has always been, in my experience, a hurdle to overcome for schools, particularly, to say, oh yeah, sure, send a survey home to the parents, because we want their opinion. Because I think that schools may not want their opinion. They may say that they do, but they're afraid of what they'll find. So I appreciate that you ask those questions and that you engaged and recognized the value of parents' opinions. And yours was on why they chose preschool, but that happens. Schools are, yes, it's hard sometimes for them to say yes. I did not expect you to have a problem with them saying, oh yeah, we'd like their opinions, but you can send these home.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry that happened, but it does speak loudly for what that overall view is. We want parents involved, we want them engaged, we want them partnering, but I guess the question is, do we really just want them doing what we tell them they need to do?
That's a great point.
That a little bit, but yes, thank you for your hard work.
And Dr. Hooks, it could be as well too that maybe they were worried about how the data would be used. So, you don't want to look bad. Nobody wants to look bad, and
Sure.
because they don't control the data, it is what.
Yes. Well, and that's another good point.
All right. Are there any additional questions or comments for Lichelle before we go into a breakout session to talk about you? All right. Well, I am going to.
Well, you went too quick, Dr. Stone.
No, you can't talk. Only committee members can. Go ahead, Felicia. Go ahead. I'm going to let you since I know you.
I was just saying congratulations, and this was phenomenal. My daughter is going into, she wants to own her own chain of daycare. So this is something great that I can pass on to her. And that's all I wanted to say. And Dr. Putnam said to tell you, congratulations, good luck. That's all. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right, Lichelle, we're going to.
You're muted, Dr. Stone.
And here I was bragging about how wonderful I've got this technology. Lichelle, you can quit sharing at this point. All right, let me get my full screen back up. And I want to be the first to congratulate you, Dr. Jones-Wilkins. The committee was very pleased with your work, and we are pleased to move you along and call you a colleague and director. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. I'm being modest over here and not screaming, so I'm going to remain professional until I get off the line.
All right, and I will let the other committee members speak, and then you and I are going to stick around after everybody's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, my advisor once said to me that when the meeting is short between your committee members, it's a good thing.
Oh,
So
good.
congratulations, you did a great job. And I think I know a lot more about early childhood education than I ever thought.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad. Thank you, Dr. Peters.
Congratulations, Lichelle. That was a very informative and showed a lot of hard work. I am proud to have been on your committee.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from the both of you.
And before the both of you go, again, thank you from Gardner-Webb. You will be getting an email from me, which will be a form for you to sign. You can do an electronic signature on that and just simply return it back to me. It just simply says she's completed the requirements, that Dr. Jones-Wilkins has completed the requirements. Later on, you will be getting a letter from Lichelle asking for your original signatures, I think on 5 copies. This will be in her bonded copies of the dissertation. That has to be in black ink with original signatures. So that's something you'll get from Lichelle a little bit later on, but look for an email from me this after, or right after we hang up.
You want us to sign it in black ink?
Yes. The thing that Lichelle sends you, what I send you, the email I send you, you can electronically sign that and send it back to me. But Lachelle's going to send you a hard copy, 24-pound. I think that's whatever that formal page is that has to go inside the dissertation. She'll mail that to you. That has to be in black ink. But the email I send can be a electronic signature. Thank you very much, ladies, doctors. It was a pleasure to meet you. We're a colleague of, we're a whole group here of doctors now.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, take care.
I'll be contacting each of you.
Sure. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.